going to take a little bit more than that to win the full confidence of the fans back. And they've got a few games ahead to try and do that. As mentioned, Monaco on Tuesday. They're away to Villarreal next in La Liga. That's not going to be easy. And then they're back in Champions League action away to Benfica. But 2-0 it would finish. It's 3 very important points for Alvaro Arbeloa in his first La Liga game as manager or head coach or interim coach or whatever you want to call it right now, the role he is playing at Real Madrid. Luis Garcia is with us, so too is Alex Kirkland. Alex, just tell us about the shift in atmosphere at the Bernabeu. You were inside there today.
Yeah, it did improve in the second half, that's true, but I think it's going to take a lot more than this to win the fans over. This was a performance that was quite reminiscent actually of some of the the last few performances of the Xabi Alonso era, those games before Christmas when Madrid were winning because they had to win, but they weren't particularly convincing either. There were some cheers for certain players. You noticed the players that it feels like are exempt from the criticism of the fans and the whistles. The likes of Gonzalo Garcia, who gives his best. The likes of Arda Güler came on and did really well. Someone like Raul Asensio, who scored the second goal, got almost an ovation actually when he went off, when he was subbed off late on by Arbeloa. Got a big hug from Arbeloa on the touchline as well. So yes, some of the players doing enough. But a lot of the players, and some of the big names in particular, are absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the way it's going to stand. Just to further the point of Alex and Ale earlier in the show, Luis, Arda Güler, the difference maker for you coming on at half-time?
Yes, of course. Let's not forget he's a new manager, so most of the players start from scratch. So the ones who have less to lose, and we are talking about the Ceballos, Arda Güler, Mastantuono, players who hasn't been involved in the past few months as often, are the ones who less pressure. And when they are on the field, they try their best. And it's true that when Arda Güler came into the field, they brought that intensity that we were talking. They brought that creativity that he was lacking in the first 45. So in the end, you can see the difference. You can see a little bit of a change. You can see a player who is trying to do and create something. And that's a massive difference from what we saw in the first 45. So you start thinking that maybe this kind of player, but again, we didn't see the best of the Real Madrid side in the second half. We saw a little bit of improvement thanks to Ceballos, to Mastantuono, to Arda Güler, because they brought that energy, that youth that they wanted to bring something different. And of course, the players who have the most pressure, the big names, the Vinicius Juniors, the Mbappe, the Jude Bellinghams, are the ones who probably we were expecting to step forward, and today they were actually very quiet.
And I guess Kylian Mbappe's okay. Played the full 90 minutes here, Ale.
Yeah, so much for the idea of, well, maybe he's in pain and he's just doing this for Arbeloa, he's just doing this because the manager needs him. Well, he was out there 90 minutes. So, and running around, certainly in the second half, and very active in the second half. Throws a penalty, takes a penalty, scores a goal. I'm not so concerned about Kylian Mbappe because while we can say that a lot of the players for Real Madrid have underperformed this season, that hasn't been the case for Kylian Mbappe. It has been well reported that Kylian Mbappe, look, either he scores goal or Real Madrid struggled to score goals. So he's going to be all right. It's Vini Jr. who I'm concerned about because he was having his issues with Xabi Alonso. Xabi Alonso's now gone. Now the attention's on Vini Jr. Arbeloa is here, and still Vini Jr. Up and down performances. Great in the Supercopa final. I still don't know why he was taken off the field. I don't care about these cramps. I don't believe in any of this cramp stuff, regardless. Vini, today, I think he may have expected that the whistles were going to come, but I don't know that he expected for the whistles to last. And through 45 minutes, through halftime, through 90 minutes, even when he's taking players on, the whistles are still coming, which tells me that there is a major disconnect. He thought that the fans were on his side, that they were against Xabi Alonso. Xabi Alonso is now gone, and the fans are still saying, no, you have to give us more. Now, I would also say this about the fans today. While they were ready to whistle at the beginning, it almost felt like at halftime they say, okay, listen, I think we whistle, we've made the point, but we need to win this game. So we got to get this team going forward. We need some positive vibe, but we need these players to give us some energy and show us something different, which is what Arda Güler and Mastantuono did, to the point that Luis was making. The atmosphere shifted in Santiago Bernabeu, but it's because also the attitude of the players shifted in Santiago Bernabeu in the second half. Those things go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. It could have been a reality check as well for those big names, Alex. So many big names before them have found out that at the Bernabeu, it doesn't matter what your name is, they will still whistle you if they're not happy with you.
Yeah, you know, Kay, literally everyone has been whistled here at the Bernabeu. Cristiano Ronaldo, you know, the very, very best players, the biggest Real Madrid legends have been whistled here when the fans feel like they aren't doing enough or they aren't living up to expectations. I think Vinicius is an interesting case because he really seems like a player who needs to feel loved. You know, different players going to respond in different ways and maybe need to be treated in different ways, don't they? I think what we saw under Xabi Alonso was that Vini Jr. didn't respond well to that style of management. He's a guy who, like I say, needs to feel loved, needs to feel wanted and appreciated. And maybe that's going to take a little while to come back. You know, of course, it's down to him as well to deliver in terms of his performances. But yeah, this isn't an atmosphere that he, I think, necessarily responds particularly well to. So that's interesting. Jude Bellingham, you saw today, you know, Bellingham kept trying, kept working, looking to make things happen, calling for the ball, but it wasn't coming off for him. And like I said, in terms of the players that got the best reaction, they were some of the lesser names, if you will, the academy products and the players coming off the bench. You know, someone like Ceballos, who came and got some applause as well for making things happen in midfield. But some of those big name players, yeah, like it's going to be a process, and it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation in terms of the crowd, of course, responds to the performances, but sometimes those performances are also driven by the crowd.
Okay, so Luis, with Real Madrid now going forward, do you think they can salvage the season and still end up winning some silverware? Are there signs there that might happen, or do you think that this is a season that they'll be forgetting?
No, of course, let's not forget, they are just 1 point behind Barcelona, waiting for Barcelona to play tomorrow against Real Sociedad. But it's a team that they always can scratch something. I'm not saying that we cannot expect Real Madrid to don't get something. It's difficult. I don't see that with this rhythm, that intensity, they can do something in Champions League. There is a totally different animal, even though that they are specialists on this competition. But in the league, well, why not? I mean, we know that Barcelona gets exposed quite often with that high line. We know that they can concede, even though they are in a different momentum. But this is a Real Madrid that even in the worst moment, they can manage to get. I'm not talking about that. I would like to focus on how they can deliver better football. That's what we are a little bit more concerned. I know that Arbeloa just mentioned it about that Real Madrid is all about results. It's all about winning. But we would love to see a Real Madrid a little bit more like we saw in the second half, when we saw against Athletic Club de Bilbao, with that flair, combination, linking up, creativity, scoring goals, and being a little bit more joyful to watch, because definitely what we've seen so far is not that kind of football, and we all love football. So results, yeah, I can assure you that Real Madrid can go and chase a trophy. Football, that's what I'm expecting to be improved, and a lot in the next coming months.
I was just going to say that the standard for Real Madrid is different. See, the fans sitting in the stadium or walking home right now away from Santiago Bernabeu, que estamos a un punto, eh? Huh? We're just 1 point behind. So, and yet it feels like the whole thing is falling apart. It feels like, my Lord, how are we going to move forward from here? The truth of the matter is, string results together and put some pressure, shift the pressure over to Barcelona and say, okay, let's see if they can hang on. But in order for you to shift that pressure over to Barcelona and away from you, you have to show and you have to give those fans evidence that they can actually trust that you can string results together and performances together, to Luis's point, because beyond the results, you have to see a different type of energy and intensity and aggression and all the things that seem like they're intangibles, but sometimes Real Madrid and these players overlook that part of the game. They think that just their quality is going to be enough, and that hasn't been the case. They need to bring the other part of the game, and the fans are hoping for that part of the game to show up. If those things come together and you shift the pressure over to Barcelona and say, okay, we're coming, we're not going away. The house may have been on fire, it's no longer on fire. We are now coming, and we're coming after you. It changes the dynamic of the season and the potential for the season for Real Madrid. But those are a lot of things that need to happen, and need to happen very quickly.
What do you think the reaction's going to be tomorrow then, Alex, in the newspapers?
I think it's going to be progress, but a very little progress. You know, a win and playing okay. I think the reaction is going to be our reaction, which is we need to see a lot more from this team and from the players. There'll be a lot of focus in the press here on the whistles from the crowd on particular star players, in particular on Vini and Jude. There'll be a lot of coverage of that one chant we heard in the first half of Florentino resign aimed at the president, a chant we hadn't heard here at the Bernabeu, I think, for quite a long time. So they'll be focused on that, and let's see what Alvaro Arbeloa says now. He'll be speaking shortly in the press conference here. He's had one or two missteps in his press conferences so far this week, so I'm interested to hear what he has to say, his analysis is of that game and that result as well.
Yeah, and no bones about it. This was so important for Arbeloa today, Luis.
Yeah, definitely. Let me tell you what the press is going to say in Barcelona. Result and nothing else. And in Madrid, it's going to be the light at the end of the tunnel, because it's going to be a totally different way, depending on for what kind of group. In Madrid, of course, they're going to try to see that Arbeloa is going to bring something different, that the club is in the right direction, and the players need to improve, but at least they got the first stone. So, yes, it's all about what is going to happen next. If this Real Madrid going to bring a little bit more of energy, if they do that, they got all the talent in the world up front to make the difference. If not, we are going to see and talking about this just in a couple of weeks.
You get the final say.
This is a minor step forward. It's like... They barely got it over the line. The first half was discouraging. Second half was encouraging. And I think that's the story of this season for Real Madrid. Some moments have been good, other moments really not good. It's now the job of Alvaro Arbeloa, and more importantly, these players to take on board the message that was sent very clearly by the fans today. It hasn't been good enough. It has to improve. And if indeed they're going to achieve big things this season, it has to improve dramatically.
Yes, absolutely. And we will be following it all the way right here on ESPN Plus, as we always do with La Liga. We thank Alex and we thank Luis for being with us. And we do remind you that Barcelona are still to play this weekend. That game against Real Sociedad away from home is coming up tomorrow. The coverage will begin at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Kickoff is at 3. You can catch it on ESPN Plus.